talk about Dairon Asprilla's performance tonight?
Yeah, I thought he made an impact. You know, he's got that game-changing ability, you know, which is why we added him. He'll lose the ball sometimes trying to make things happen, but in the process of trying to make things happen, he impacts the game. And I thought he was certainly one of the guys today that showed well and made an impact.
You mentioned him as someone that's making your choice tough when it comes to the starting 11, and obviously you looked at different attacking combos tonight in the different halves. Is that still, there's still choices that are up there for you as the next season attacking?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we were looking to accomplish a few things today, and I thought we accomplished those things. We got to look at a couple striker pairings. I thought actually both halves, you know, obviously first half Maxi and Gata, I thought they looked good together, and I thought Adi and Nagbe looked good together. The one combination we haven't played in a game is Adi and Maxi. But when you start pairing guys like that together, you can start to get a sense of who plays well together, and I think it will depend maybe on current form. Obviously Nagbe's versatile, so he can play wide. But with the other three, we might end up starting the two that are in current form, scoring goals, and depends also on what we're trying to get out of the game, because everybody brings something a little bit different. But that was one thing we're looking to accomplish. The other thing was to see where some of our draft picks are at, some of the new guys, and the third thing was to keep certain guys sharp. So, you know, I wouldn't say we're confused on who's going to start. We have a good sense because we have evidence to go on, and I think we have good options. So we'll continue to look at some things on Saturday, and then we'll put out the lineup we feel will give us the best chance to win on March 7th.
Were there any particular guys who stood out in terms of the new guys? And anybody improve his lot?
I thought George Fashive had a good game. You know, he obviously got the red card at the end, but I'd rather a guy get a red card trying to make plays and tackle and, you know, impact the game than someone that perhaps is trying to get through the game without making mistakes. And I thought he had a good impact today because you could tell he wanted to get around the ball and tackle. And I thought he did a nice job. So I thought he was one in particular that upped his stock. Now, is it going to be good enough to play over a Jack Jewsbury? I don't know. You know, when you're going into March 7th and you're trying to win the game, and you know, do you throw him in with 22,000 fans, or do you go with the guy that's experienced, that's been there? But I think if George continues to play the way he played today, then he's going to continue to get more time, and he's going to continue to get a longer look.
How much of a dress rehearsal will the final preseason game be for the home?
Well, it won't be the home opener, but it will be another game where we can continue to build fitness, cohesiveness, and continue to look at some things and make decisions. And one of the things I've learned in the 2 years I've been in this league, now going into the third year, is no matter what you say, it's still a preseason game. And ultimately, you're not going to get your players' best until we're kicking off in a real game playing for points. So, you know, these guys know that, and ultimately they will put a good performance out, but it won't be as good a performance as we'll get on March 7th.
What do you, these two games you're playing in front of home fans, what's your sense for how the players who haven't played here before, how they're taking this in and working on becoming part of the Timbers family?
Well, I think it depends on the player. You know, that's an interesting question, and it's an interesting thing that I've looked at, and with young players here, it's not easy. It's one of the atmospheres that's, you know, guys that go and play in other places, it's a little bit easier because the crowd doesn't put quite as much, you know, perhaps pressure on you. When I say pressure, it's a good pressure, but it's still pressure. So I think it's not always easy for young players to settle in, but the key is they have to eventually settle in. And just like Darlington, you know, is a guy that's settled in. He was a young player, was drafted, and he's obviously shown he can do a job. Alvis eventually has settled in. You know, he was a young player. It took him some time, but eventually he did. So one of the things I said to the guys after the game is, you know, every professional player had to have their debut, and most players are nervous in their first year, couple years, couple games, whatever it takes. But the key is, if you're going to have a long career, eventually you have to get over that, and eventually you have to settle in. And the ones that don't, they don't make it.
Amongst the new guys, who's the most Timberlake already?
Most Timberlake.
Settled in for the ready for the community, you think?
Oh, ready for the community. Man, it's a tough question. You have to ask the Timbers, Timbers Army. I don't know. We haven't had a ton of time to get out in the community, but I'm sure some of the young guys will emerge. They're all good guys, and but I think the better they play, the more they'll settle in to the community, right?
What happened with Nantrell?
I think he pulled his hip flexor. Yeah, I think it was early in the game, actually. So.
How long is that something that you're out for?
I don't know yet. We'll evaluate it, and I'll be able to let you know tomorrow, most likely.
Are you concerned at all that your main forwards haven't scored in the rare play yet, or is that just?
Well, I'd like for them to get those juices going. You know, it's always good when you get that first goal, even if it's preseason. You know, you get that feeling of scoring, and but I'm also really pleased that in our defending. You know, we've played 5 games now. We've given up 3 goals. 1 was an own goal, and if you look at last year, where we had problems, it was on the defensive side. So I think we've really addressed that and corrected that, and I've been pleased with how we've defended. We do need to get the attack going, but I'm confident that will come.
Gaston Fernandez was a little bit more aggressive in his playmaking role today. What did you think of his first half performance?
Yeah, I thought he was able to get into a rhythm. You know, for some reason in the last game, you know, he wasn't able to get into a rhythm, you know, and I think part of it is they kept it pretty tight, Vancouver, and, you know, they had a plan of kind of chopping the game, and he took a couple fouls early. So then he started, you know, kind of pulling wide a lot, you know, and I thought he actually at times crowded the left channel, you know, so I think it was because he couldn't find space. They did a nice job, Vancouver, of compacting their 2, you know, basically the block of 8. So, you know, he's got to get on the ball and get into a rhythm like he did tonight. And I thought that was a big difference. He was able to do that, and you know, and again, is it the pairing? I don't know. I mean, those are things you got to look at, think about.
How much was Asprilla a factor in that?
Well, I think anytime you get width, then, you know, it pulls the back 4 apart, and you know, the whole point of getting width is you create space in the center, and I thought we did get width through Asprilla, and perhaps maybe that played into it, but maybe it was the fact that Chicago wasn't quite as tight in there. Maybe that's a factor, or maybe he just got into a rhythm early this game. Maybe, you know, he just had a better game, and that happens. But those are all things that we talk about. We watch the tape. We have long discussions on all these things. You know, ultimately, you know, you got to make decisions based on those things, but you need players that are going to perform, regardless of whether Spree is in there or whoever. But we certainly look at those things and we think about, you know, all those components.